Alright, hello everyone. This is Alex, and today I've got my first voiced video and just something, a little that's been a little bit special to me that anybody in the general community that I've been interacting with in regards to Zenless knows me for. And it's that math is important to everyone. And look at all these multipliers. So I'm going to be going over exactly how the damage formula works, and exactly why it is probably the reason that your units performing poorly. Um, Within this formula, there are a few nestled formulas, and I will be doing the best um, possible breakdown of this formula. So first up, the first thing that we start with, right, is the base damage. This is what everything after factors against, which is your ability multiplier, which is going to be, for example, your Miyabi basic 3 will have a percentage multiplier, and it will multiply it by this stat, and it will always be attack unless otherwise stated on a unit. That this is very simple stuff. This number right here, very simple, very easy to get. Miyabi loves it. Um, Miyabi puts a really big number here. Next up, you have your damage bonus multiplier. So these all sum together: elemental damage bonus, flat damage bonus, support engine damage bonus. In combat, no matter what, it's a damage bonus. It all goes into this multiplier here. It will all factor into one bonus, meaning that they don't multiply against each other. It doesn't matter if you stack elemental and flat. The elemental will specifically only affect when you're doing that attribute damage, for example. So if you have Soldier 11 and you give her fire damage bonus, her non-enhanced basics, non-fire suppression won't get the bonus, obviously. Um, but Miyabi's engine provides quite a bit of this, 40% with both stacks as a primary example. If you know Miyabi, which I do, I know a lot about Miyabi. I've been building her for a while. That's what that is. This is a pretty easy one to stack. There's a lot of these in the game. A lot of things that give you damage bonus multiplier. So one of these you can't control. Everything after base damage is stuff you can control. Well, you can control base damage by how much attack you're putting into your unit, but you can't really control your multipliers beyond what the agent is capable of having upgraded. Your crit multiplier. Every Hoyo player knows what this is, I hope, because you all overvalue it far too much. Everyone inflates this a lot. They just kind of think it's like the most important thing. They'll see Silver Soldier Anby's engine spoilers and go 100% crit damage. How could you go wrong? By neglecting all the attack that you get from Brimstone, if you wanted to throw it on Soldier 11, for example, um, or negate it, like ignoring attack in general. People just overvalue crit damage a lot, but it's very simple. It's got a very simple sub formula too. The crit multiplier is simply, yeah, it's your crit damage. Crit damage over one. Not hard. So the more crit damage you have, times your damage bonus, times multiplier, that's pretty good damage. Um, so basically, the way that you'll want to think about valuing your crit damage is if stacking more crit damage is taking away from your attack. If it's not, well, that's fine. Also, you have to think about if it's taking away from your damage bonuses. Um, a lot of units have a bunch of options, so teams that have lighter on it absolutely don't need to be stacking any damage bonus multipliers in there. Like, for example, their disc 5. If you have lighter on the team, your disc 5 should probably be going to getting more attack. Or pen, possibly. Pen ratio, depending on your situation. Which will get me right to the next part of the formula. The defense multiplier. This is very important. This is why Nicole is the best A rank support agent in the game, and it's not even close. So, this one is a little bit more annoying than the rest of this formula, because this wreck right here exists. This is a wreck. It's tremendously painful to look at. Level factor, as far as I remember, is that if your level is different from the attacker level, from the enemy that you're fighting, uh, there will be a factor that involved. Which basically is why you should level all your units to 60. Um, because if your level factor is against the target is going to be bad, for example, Shiyu defense 7 enemies have level 70, and the maximum you get to is level 60, they're going to have higher defense relative because of the level factor. The max defense of the target, you can directly affect this with defense shred, such as Nicole's special or Miyabi's M1 full basic applies a defense shred. All defense shreds and defense ignores, despite technically functioning differently, uh, work exactly the same in this formula as they affect this section. So Miyabi's ability on M1 says defense ignore. It's the same. It does the same thing in the formula. It shreds the defense. So it stacks additively with Nicole's 40%. But that is why you will see um, gameplay of Miyabi and Nicole absolutely shredding shit, um, as they would say, because it will stack together to ignore 75% of the target's defense. Speaking of which, this is another reason why you won't run pen ratio alongside Nicole or anybody that can defense shred, is that that applies before pen ratio gets applied. Defense shred is applied before pen ratio, meaning that if you shred exactly 50%, your pen ratio will be half as effective because it will be applying to half of the original number. Uh, and then you'll have flat pen apply, which is going to be a set number depending on how many pen rolls you had, which are probably only worth slightly more than flat attack. Therefore, you shouldn't be aiming for them. Um, Everyone knows that flat pen and flat attack is pretty lame in this game. Yes, and that's the defense formula. That's a simple explanation of that. Let's get this off screen. The resistance multiplier. This is where res shred comes in. The resistance multiplier is pretty simple, actually. It's how much resistance they have. So if they have a high resistance, you will deal less damage. If you reduce their resistance, they will take more damage. So it's good to have this defense multiplier, defense shred, crit, a big amount of crit damage, good amount of damage bonuses, and a high base attack. And Miyabi can basically do all of those things, which is why she's a really outstanding agent. There are other agents that can do pretty well with this too. Lighter does applies a res shred, as well as Soldier's M6 technically, which that's the standard banner M6, but Evelyn's engine does it for her primary ability. So there's that. It stacks pretty well with your high crit DPS. One agent in the game applies this multiplier. This is Caesar's multiplier. She gives you a 25% damage buff. This is equal to 1 or equal to 1.25, depending on if you have Caesar's debuff on them or not. Why it is that way, I'm not sure. I think some events might apply this as well, but outside of Caesar applying this is entirely outside of your control. And the stun multiplier works exactly how you think it does. Shingi makes it bigger, Lighter makes your stun window last longer, Lycon can make it a little bigger, but in general, it'll be 150%. So, as one says, maximizing all of these values is how you get the biggest number. So, we'll talk about the ones you can control in building. You can't control these unless you're planning on running Caesar. um, or anything that can make the stun multiplier bigger. So generally, with your calculations, you should, unless you're running a specific agent that makes the stun multiplier bigger, you can always assume it's 1.5. The damage taken multiplier you can always assume is 1, unless you're going to run Caesar. And I assume that if you're going to run Caesar, you're not going to be running Jingy in the same team. I would hope, for your own sanity. It's probably just not the best idea. So you want to track with what team you're building. You'll want to track how much resistance shred you're going to be able to get out. And once you find that value on the team, then you'll want to figure out how much defense shred your build is going to end up being able to deliver. And generally, these won't change. These will just be fixed on however your team is built, because I don't think we have any variables other than changing units out for adjusting these values. 10 is one way you can control this directly. You can control defense multiplier directly with 10 ratio, but if you have a defense shred unit on your team, then it doesn't matter. You'll just need to figure out how much defense shred you're doing. And you shouldn't run pen. I can't repeat enough. You do not run pen and defense shred in the same build. It is just a waste of your disc 5. Because putting more attack is going to be far better. For reasons that will be clearly shown in math. Alright. Okay. So, as I was saying, how much you value each of these in the first 3 sections, which are going to be the most easily controllable, is your attack, your damage bonuses, and your crit rate. And essentially, your damage bonuses are going to be what they are, for the most part. But you can adjust it slightly with your damage bonus disc 5, but your crit multiplier, and your attack. Many Zenless players fail at this one simple balance. Your crits are going to do no damage if you have 2000 attack. Don't care how much crit damage you're doing. It's a bad idea. It's just a really bad idea to have a low attack and a high crit damage. It's just not worth the sacrifice. So you want to get a healthy balance. And generally, I found the balance in this game to be aiming to get as close to 3000 attacks as possible on most crit DPS. However, there is actual math to this. You'll have to, first off, get your crit value, which your crit value is simply your crit damage and your crit rate multiplied by 2. You'll only multiply your crit rate by 2, so it'll and this is presuming that you keep a very good crit ratio, because obviously, if you're running 400 crit damage and like 5 crit rate, I mean, you're cooked, bud. I can't help you. But presuming that you have you factor your crit value, and you can factor it against, you can actually do an average of how much critical damage you should be dealing with your multiplier times your attack, and you can figure out adjusting the values, which one's going to be worth more for you once you get to a high point in your build. There is a very good tool called the Zenless, or the Disk Optimizer, which isn't fully complete yet, but I have heard good things and I've seen good things about it. Let me see if I can go ahead and grab the link for that. I'll put the link in the description if I can find it. This is how anomaly damage is mathed out. Let me just go ahead and load this up. It looks a lot bigger, I think, but it's not like that much different. As stated before, in the first section, these are not changing. You're either running Caesar or like a stunner that adjusts these. Caesar is relevant. You might run Caesar on several anomaly teams, so you'll want to make sure you keep Caesar buff up for your multiplier. But generally, we can't do anything about that. Res multiplier, as said, you can get things to adjust this up and down. This works the same way as well. Pen ratio is a strategy on anomaly agents, provided that you don't have a defense shred from a Mindscape or something. Damage bonus multipliers. Damage bonus multipliers are very good on anomaly agents, because your damage bonus multipliers all stack together, and it's multiplicative along with your other anomaly multipliers. So getting as much of these out as possible is good. Your anomaly, but I got a little ahead of myself here. Your anomaly base damage. This is a really simple one compared to the DPS one where you had to factor in your multiplier from your ability. This is literally just the multiplier times your unit's attack. So your attack is important to your AP. Your AP multiplier is literally your anomaly proficiency times 1%. That's it. So yeah, your AP is a direct percentage of how much extra damage you're doing. That's why AP is also good. More talented people than me have put in have done the calculations for like Jane Doe and stuff about when AP outweighs attack, and when attack outweighs AP. But there is a limit to how much AP you want to be running over attack and how much attack you would want to be running over AP, and you kind of want to hit those breakpoints. That being said, you'll want to be running as much extra damage bonus as you can as well, because you can. There's a cap to how much attack and AP you're ever going to hit on an agent, and this will actually be a lot easier to get maximized out than these two, because getting perfect rolls on an anomaly agent is an absolute nightmare. I've tried. And your anomaly level multiplier is interesting. It's this formula, which makes me a little upset looking at it, because it's another division problem. But it's not that hard to wrap your head around. It's 1 plus 1 over 59 times level minus 1, which I don't understand why it's this way. I don't know why this multiplier is here. Somebody that's better at math than me can figure that one out. I could do math up in my head real quick. So that'd be 59. 1 plus 159th times 59. That's... What is this? This just multiplies based off your level, doesn't it? So it would be... Oh, that's truncated to 4 decimal places. Oh, it truncates it to 4 decimal places, but it does this giant division problem right here. And then presume you're level 60, so times 59. Okay. It's your level. I'm gonna... This is your level. Thank you. Alright. Get out of my sight. You're not a level multiplier. It's your level. It's your agent's level. If you're at level 1, you'll do 1/60th the damage. That's what this says. So level your anomaly to 60. Don't be the guy. Don't be the people thinking that you can just level them to 55 and you think you'll be doing good, because you'll also get hit with the bigger defense multiplier problem. Now, this is hardly the most important part of anomaly damage. Obviously, this was important. However, anomaly also has how their actual damage works. Your anomaly base damage, which is that first one, is your anomaly multiplier times attack. Your anomaly multiplier, it is dependent on peak professionalism, I assure you, in my Paint 3D math class. I'm back. Your anomaly base damage is important because it's going to be your anomaly multiplier times your attack. So this is why burn is bad. No, I'm joking. Bernice is a good unit. But it does do like the lowest anomaly damage in numbers. Um, However, there are some more specific things about how anomaly damage ticks. Um, and all these multipliers are here in order to keep them roughly in line with each other power level wise. Um, Shock is 125%, but it does half as many damage ticks as Corruption, which is half as much as Shock. So that evens out. And then the ones that do one instance of damage, Shatter and Assault, do a lot of damage all front loaded. But it's your attack. Uh, it's why your attack matters. And that's it for the anomaly portion. However, disorder is also an important bit of this. Your disorder damage is going to be calculated in a way specific to what the previous anomaly was and the anomaly multiplier of the disorder. Uh, Basically, the way it works is that it eats up all the damage over time that your previous your previous anomaly did, unless of course it was freeze or flinch, in which case it does a just an extra burst of damage, uh, with a uh, as opposed to simply like doing a bunch of damage that eats up the dot. Uh, your priorities for your leveling and your anomaly characters will be weighing AP and attack generally, as opposed to weighing attack and crit damage with crit DPS units. Unless of course the name is Yanagi, in which case you will sacrifice everything for anomaly proficiency because um her polarity disorder is cracked as hell. That's the basic bit. I can get down to some gameplay and as well as showing some built units off in game about as well as talking about how the different stats matter, but particularly it's just that you want to have stat priorities. You want to know how to prioritize your stats properly, and generally you can find some really good advice by simply looking up what people are running, the meta. But once you've gotten to a high point in your build, you know, you might be wondering like, how can I make my build better? And I hope that this little overview of how the damage formula works can help you optimize your build and your teams. There's a more obviously general knowledge that I can also give, like don't stack all of your supports onto one team. It's just probably going to be better to spread them across multiple teams with competent DPS. Also, don't run Miyabi and Yagi together. My hot take: they're better as two separate teams. Especially if you got Bernice for some as well in that list. You should be running Yanagi and Bernice together. They are a very solid team together. And Miyabi can be very competently built with as a team to her own because of how good she is. Heads and shoulders above like the rest of the units in the game. Generally, you'll be worried about math. We love math over here, though. And I will hopefully be able to talk about some more math later. However, this will be the end of this video. Thanks for listening to my unhinged rant about the damage formula. And say hello to my boy Sleptik, who got me into making content creation. His link will be down in the description. You will know that you're on his channel from the deep fried rockafu.